This episode of the Gravelot is proudly brought to you by our friends of the show at Works.
Yeah, you've heard about the amazing portable power cleaner from
We've been
Works
talking about it a lot
since the beginning of cyclocross season.
It's the revolution of 2019, 2020 cyclocross and beyond.
It has done an amazing job to make things simpler at your home, but there is so much more that Works has, and we have recently received a whole bunch of fun stuff to play with, and it's changed a bunch of things around my house.
TGL tested, TGL approved.
Absolutely. Works has a whole plethora of things for you available, and it ranges from sawhorse collapsible tables with clamps, the sidekick table, which is incredible.
300-pound capacity. Like you
on
can
a table.
Stand on it. And
like,
it's, yeah.
I mean, we'd be real close to testing the limit of that if you and I
That might be
stood on
good
it.
content right there.
So this is happening. But really amazing stuff, and it all bolts together and like works.
Yeah,
works.
floodlights, rotary cutters, electric snips, all runs on the 20-volt battery system. Like it's all interchangeable with everything that we've been talking about with the HydroShot already. Just expanding your work capabilities and everything that you can do around the house.
It all works together, and that is why.
That was nice.
Exactly, I know, and that's why they're so
that's why
powerful.
Doug makes the big money.
Something like that. But we love all of their products. We're testing out everything we can that they've been sending our way. We are tremendously impressed with this stuff. We wouldn't reach out to you guys and let you know about
we wouldn't
their
endorse
products.
something that we don't believe in.
We believe in it 100%. Awesome. I'm excited to test out this blower as soon as like the rain stops and I can blow some leaves. Really, really cool stuff. Go to Works and check out their stuff. You can go to yourcleanbike.com, enter the promo code GEARUP at checkout, and that'll save you 15% off your order, off anything that you see on the yourcleanbike.com site, even though it's Your Clean Bike.
Sure. Yeah. So they started with the HydroShot, and now they've since, they've loved really what Doug has been doing with the ad roll so much that they've added more products to the actual list. So
Thanks, Works.
Just go to Your Clean Bike. That's yourcleanbike.com and shop there. Everything on there, as long as you use the code GEARUP, GEARUP, that is going to get you 15% off everything on that site. So Doug and I hope to see you on the road, trails, gravel, wherever this late winter, early spring, summer, riding hard and riding clean. Welcome back to the best podcast on the entire internet, the podcast that is recommended by 5 out of 4 mathematicians who ride bikes everywhere. We are coming to you this week, and I am back this week for this week's intro from the home of Red Bike. This is the Gravelot. You clicked on the Gravelot. Thank you for clicking and listening to the Gravelot. We are part of the Wide Angle Podium network of shows. My name is John.
My name is Doug, and I'm really glad to not be doing the intro all by myself in the bedroom of my house.
You're a lot more dynamic when I'm in the room. Last week you sounded a little bummed out.
I was bummed out, and it was also 6 a.m.
Yes,
in my spare bedroom. Well, and was asleep, and my voice sounded like it was early.
Don't wake anybody up.
Shh, be quiet. Don't let the dogs bark.
You're trying to just ease into the episode.
Just trying to ease into the day, I believe, that day. But I'd also not slept for a lot of time. It was a whole thing. Anyway, the Gravelot, you're here. You know what it's about. If you don't know what it's about, we are about all things cycling, but all things cycling adjacent.
Yeah.
We like to talk about the things that surround the people who are within this crazy thing we call cycling.
Yeah, and we just love letting folks tell their story, asking questions about why that story means something to them.
Absolutely.
Why did you choose bikes, and what keeps you hanging around bikes, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
It's those dinner table conversations and those longer format conversations that with people when you get to know them. And those are the questions and the things we like to have because we're just like kind of a big family.
Yeah. And the Gravelot is the place where you meet to go ride your bike on a trail, road ride, gravel ride, whatever. You park in a Gravelot, you talk with your friends, you catch up on what's going on, and then you go ride bikes. So
exactly.
Let's kick the show off.
Exactly. And this week we are lucky enough to get to have those same conversations with a really awesome friend of ours.
One of our quickly became one of our most favoritist people.
Yeah. So I remembered, and you'll hear in this episode, I try to remember what animal that we were told that we came up with that she is. She's the truffle pig.
Yes.
Truffle Pig, and I couldn't figure it out as I was editing the episode. I realized,
right, because she
finds us the best nuggets,
snoots out all the best nuggets. Yeah,
so the truffle pig of the gravel lot.
And I'm sure she's
laughing.
Loves
she's laughing it right now. When I told her that, I think she laughed her butt off when I told her that in a message.
It's worth it.
But we're back with our friend Katie Macarelli, and just get to touch on a bunch of stuff. And folks, this is a 2-parter.
There's a cliffhanger at the end of this one.
Yeah, and then you get the rest of it in episode 2. But we got a 2-parter because the conversation was so vibrantly different.
Yes.
But also so important on both sides. So join us this week for this piece. We'll dive in now, and then we won't fill you in on the back end, and we'll come back to you in a little bit. This week, we are joined by another returning guest, which is awesome. We're having some of our favorite friends back this season. It's been really good.
Check in, see how life's going.
Yeah, and I think it's good. Take the temperature, see what's been going on in your world, and see what's been changing. Because just like John and I, your life changes. Things move. You're always kind of moving forward. Sometimes you're, sliding all around on the ice, but you are always moving. And it is always good to check in with the people that we care about. You should be doing that with your friends, and we're doing that with ours this year. And joining us again is probably one of our favorite guests and most popular guests that we have.
Yes, without question.
She's
also probably responsible for more than half of season 2's guests.
That's probably
in one way or another. She put us in contact with almost half of them. I would say.
I would say that's a pretty. Yeah. I would say that's a pretty good bet.
So she's basically like an associate producer at this point.
Can we get her a credit on here?
I'm the loudest person. I think that it all comes down to decibel, really. So yeah, I'll own that. I'm loud.
It works. It works for us.
Resonates.
But she has had a bit of a career change, but still kind of the same place, and we'll discuss a little bit of that. But without a doubt, welcome back, Katie Macarelli, to the Gravel Lot.
Thank you, guys. I'm so excited to be back and chat with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You've been an awesome supporter of the show. Like, can't say, folks. Katie has been so supportive of us in so many different ways, and just taking care of us in all of this, all the different places, but really just, handing us off warmly to so many awesome people in the industry. Thank you for that. It's been exceptional. We've made so many good new friends because of you. So we really appreciate that.
Oh, that makes me really happy. It's easy to connect good people. So that's truly how I feel about you guys.
You've also kept us out of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
A couple times.
Blind spot detector. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know what I called you something to Lucy. I said that you were like, I know we called you blind spot protector, but I think I called you like I don't remember. She'll remember what it was, but I had a good nickname for you. Do you remember what it was, Katie? I'll have to look back in my emails. I don't know. You're like, yeah. But you take care of us, and you look out for us, and you make sure that we don't step in poop.
Right.
It's pretty much
like a mother hen. Mother
hen. Yeah. Something like that for sure. So, but thanks for coming back. We're stoked to touch base with you. And last we saw you were with Feedback, and working with them and kind of heading up all of their stuff. And you've kind of made a shift in the past year. What does that look like for you? You've now gone from Feedback to Thorpe, right?
Yeah, so I was with Feedback Sports for about 5 years, and started there as it's basically kind of like a social media part-time, coordinator, marketing, little all things. And then, over that time, I became kind of marketing manager and loved it. And it was a massively wonderful time to learn and to get more immersed in the cycling industry. But yeah, I was ready for a change. I was traveling a lot, and that was kind of the big impetus. Is I was just missing stuff from my family, and our girls are high school, and so I missed a couple homecomings and little things like that, and that it was time for a change. So I had known Jason Thorpe of Thorpe Marketing for years, and he does PR. The firm does PR, marketing, media relations, social media, ad buy, what have you, for, pretty much whatever anybody needs, and predominantly for outdoor and cycling brands. And we've, stepped up into a lot of events over the last couple of years too, which has been neat, or since I've been there too. So yeah, I've been there now a little over a year, and it was a really interesting change just because I went from doing all the marketing things for one brand and then to doing them for, 5 brands. And so that was a really a learning curve for me for sure, because I like to do things and do them well. And I had to start to learn to still do things well, but don't get hyper focused on one particular brand or client and how to make that work. So it's been fun. It's been a fun year for sure.
So how have you figured out how to make that work for you? Because for those that don't know Katie, I think she's kind of downplaying the depth at which she wants to get involved with everything and understand everything. So when you're dealing with 2, 3, 4, 10, however many clients are on your docket, how do you make those transitions to, because I can't imagine that you're somebody who only, stays at 10,000 feet when you live in the weeds and that's kind of who you are. So how have you found to make that work for you?
Oh, I haven't. I mean, I'm still definitely working on it. The first couple months I think were the hardest. It was just drinking from the fire hose in terms of, feedback sports. We had kind of not limited, but there were only so many products, right? And going from, one of my brands now is Toe Peak, and they come out with amazing product lines.
So many.
It might be 20 to 30 products,
Yeah.
And so that was just the biggest thing where I looked at their catalog and their website and my jaw just dropped. Like, I know I could do this, but oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? So
I got to market a pump and a fender and bags and lights,
tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. Multi-tools. Yeah. And so I think that was for me, it was just kind of brand immersion for everything. And that's kind of how I do it for whatever I'm throwing myself into, is just to learn as much as I can. And I mean, we're lucky that we're in an age where you can learn whatever you want within, 5 minutes, or a YouTube tutorial, or, looking through images from years past. So yeah. And then right when I started with Thorpe as well, I was helping out with a photo and video shoot, and got to go to France for another brand, Hutchinson. So all of that happened before Sea Otter in just a couple months. So it was definitely hands-on learning and on location learning. And, I did a lot of things right, but I did several million things wrong, and I learned from it. So luckily the brands that I work with, and Jason and our agency, is very low key in terms of, we trust you. We know you're going to get the job done. Get it done whenever you can, which also helps with, international brands and things. So, a lot of times I am looking at my phone at almost midnight just because I'm a night owl, but that helps. And I can kind of juggle it because they're all across the board. So that helps too. And just the amount of trust to say yeah, we know you're going to get it done, and what can we do to help? Which I think is nice to have brands that are very helpful with that and very accommodating as to when we can get things done and how we can work for them to maximize both sides. But yeah, my balance is still way off. I think I'll be like that forever. I'm just a tornado of ridiculousness, and that's okay. I'm starting to accept it, but I also want to fix it all the time.
I mean, we all do. We're all running around.
That's what we talked about before recording. Is we're all great at giving advice, but we all suck when trying to apply it to our own lives. So
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm better, I think, now at least saying no to things that I know are outside of, work and my family. Well, my family first, hopefully, and then work. And so knowing that this is as my husband and I would call it, a circle the wagon year. He started a new job. I started a new job within, I think 4 weeks of each other last January. And so we both tried to dial things back. And when I say both, I mean me, because he's not really one to go out and make a bunch of social engagements. But for me, it was a good reason for me to just say no to things for the year. Hey, I'd love to do this. This sounds great, but I'm busting into a new job right now. And people understand, and then when you're ready to come back into that and you've got your feet under you again, I think that I have really good friends and a really good community that just supports that. So that's something I think of, people that are overly do it and that sort of personality. It's okay to just say no to stuff. Just say no. It's okay to say no to social engagements, and know that there should be no guilt about that. You know, like coaching high school mountain bike is awesome. And it was lovely last year. And I did that. But I probably won't be able to do it in the capacity that I did last year, just knowing how the season went, and it butts right up to Eurobike. So, you know, it's okay to dabble. And I think that's something good to, you know, with high school mountain bike too. When I was trying to recruit parents, I'm like, you don't have to sign away your soul. Come once, you know, like, I think we're all in the mindset of like, if we do it, we're going to do it 100%. And we have to remember that like sometimes 10% is great. And if everybody does 10%, that's a lot of percent.
That's way more than 100 if everyone did 10.
More
way
than 0.
More.
Yeah. I wish we could just get more people to give just 10%. That would be fantastic. But you've got so many brands, right? You've got to take your 100% of work time and mix them. So you mentioned you're working with Toe Peak and Hutchinson, and kudos for you. You said no travel, but you got to go to France, and that seems like appropriate.
I know. I like how that was just slipped in there. Like I don't want to travel anymore, and then within a few months I went to France for a photo shoot. Like, I was having humble brag.
That was one of the coolest experiences in my life for sure. I mean, and that's the thing is like this industry is so amazing, and there's so many good brands, and there's so many good events, and there's so many good people, right? And so, you know, like the once in a lifetime trip, or knowing it was for a brand launch that they needed, you know, they wanted a U.S. media there and people there. So that was one of those that it was like, yeah, absolutely. Oh, I guess I'll rally to go ride my bike in France, you know, but it's pretty amazing. But yeah, it's a balance. I do. Yeah, I know. Right. Oh, I guess I'll make that happen. Elite Cycles is one of my other brands. So the trainers, water bottles,
best water bottles ever, in my personal opinion.
Oh man.
And they are actually solely responsible for our Saturday morning Zwift group rides.
Absolutely. 100%.
So they are the impetus behind making those happen. So for everyone that's gotten up super early, and Katie, for being 2 hours behind us, got up and was ready to roll at 6 a.m. local time to join the Gravel Out group ride. So kudos for that. I can't even imagine, because I have trouble getting up and getting some food shoveled into my face before like sliding on some bibs and get on the bike.
Katie has made exactly the same number of events that I have. Which is one.
That's all right. There's different glue that holds things together.
That is the truth. Well, and you know, here's kind of a funny story is that I'm straight up not a trainer person. I just like yesterday I got to go ride in the snow and I loved it. Like give me sliding around and barely a workout except for my heart rate speeding, you know, out of being scared. That I love. And it takes a lot for me to get on a trainer, but Elite was here in Colorado 2 weeks ago for QBP's Frostbike. I don't know if you guys know that. It's like a QBP put on dealer kind of trade show that they do. And usually they do it at their headquarters. But this year they're like, hey, what if we do it in Denver? And the whole crowd cheered because they would rather go to Denver in the winter probably than Minnesota again in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I actually was riding one of the trainers, you know, which I helped promote, you know, for my job. And I'm like, guys, this is really nice, you know, like, and we all kind of giggled like, maybe I should do this a little more often. I'm like, wow, it's going downhill now. I mean, I'm like my mom with an iPad with, you know what I mean? I'm that like, ooh,
did you know you could get on the internet?
Totally. Yeah. And they have this little block now that's coming out that you can steer for Zwift. So, I mean, I was like running it off the trail and I'm like, oh, I'm going to hit the deer. And of course Zwift won't let you hit the deer or hit any butterflies, but it was really fun. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I need to get back on this. We'll see. But yeah, it was pretty funny.
I will. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I'm good for normally 45, 50 minutes if I'm, you know, I have the TV and all that stuff set up, but having the smart trainer, connecting it to Zwift, being able to really kind of tune out and not need to worry, well, I can make it harder if I shift. And it's like going on a ride. And all of a sudden I did 41 miles on this past Saturday morning's ride. And it's like, you get done, you're like, oh, that was almost 2 hours. And I was texting folks and talking like, I mean, granted, we're texting on our phones to interact, but it was the same conversations we would have had on a ride. And
Right,
it was
on a
just
ride.
like, and we're spread out all over the country. And it's like, actually, this is pretty damn cool.
It is. Like, that was pretty much what I said. I like muttered, I'm like, all right, this is pretty damn cool. Like, like, fine, this is pretty great. I can steer. Yeah, no,
fine.
It's pretty neat. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely different. And I know it's a workout is the thing. Like, I'm just lazy. Like, if I'm on a trainer, I'm just not doing anything. So I know that would be advantageous. And if I trained on a trainer throughout the winter, I probably wouldn't be so slow in the spring. So I know there's good things about it. I'm just not quite there yet.
I'm hoping that's
getting there.
I'm hoping that's how it'll turn out for me if I ride on a trainer a bunch. I got sick and a little bit injured. So
you got sidetracked.
I got sidetracked.
You've had a busy kickoff to the year. You've been a little busy boy this year.
But I'm already well over 200 miles for the year, so that was
a lot
good.
more than me.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that was I did over 200 in January.
Doug's getting ready for BC bike race.
How?
I think it's all like fear-based training that he's just
mostly
like scared, motivated. But hey, whatever gets you A to Z.
I'm a fan of fear-based training.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's a bear, run. Yes, that's basically.
All right, so we're all getting super ADD here, and we're getting sidetracked.
It's okay. Elite, awesome trainers, awesome trainers.
Yes.
The most amazing squishy water bottles.
Pull us back.
I live only on Elite water bottles. They're the squishiest, most wonderful.
They're nice water bottles.
Yeah, I love
I'll admit.
Yeah. They do have the best tops too.
Yeah, I agree.
Like the sip
Squishy.
tops. Yes.
Yeah. All right, so Elite, yeah. Well, what else? What do you pedal out there for Thorpe?
So then I do events wise. I do Colorado Classic.
That
my
small
coworker,
little thing.
Anna. Now she says it much prettier. Anna Mariah is how I say it, but it's Anna Mariah, and she used to be with LS Cycling Tips. So we're a good team. She does the PR and the journalism side of things, and the heavy duty content, and then I do more of the social media and the community based stuff. So we worked with them in a similar fashion last year, but this year we're kind of upping our involvement with that on the PR side, and then as well as kind of coming aboard on the social media side a little bit earlier. So that's exciting. That one, but it's going to be August 27th through the 30th. So that really is like, I think it's 1 week later this year, so it really will be like that, and then Eurobike is the next week. So that'll be fun. But that's a really fun event to work with. And now that it's in its second year of being women only, it's exciting because last year was a big switch. It was from men and women to just women only. So of course you got this big, like somewhat of a backlash actually at the beginning. But then rebuilding kind of that audience is okay. Well, who are we talking to now? Who is really into it in this iteration? And so now we're going into the second year of that, and it feels really good because you know that everybody that's involved is on board for this kind of specific mission. So yeah, that one's exciting. And then I work with Team Evergreen, which is a local cycling club, and I should say club. It's massive. It's the oldest and longest running cycling club in Colorado, and they put on the Triple Bypass ride, which is 3 mountain passes, Evergreen to Avon. And then this year they've added like a double triple. So you can do that on Saturday and then ride back on Sunday. So that's 240 miles and 20,000 feet of climbing. So that's interesting. And then they've added a bike bash.
Yeah. Interesting is a word. Sure.
I mean, and that is one of those, it's a really iconic Colorado event out here. And that's one that, I mean, any of these is the thing, like I love events and doing and having them as clients because some of it's the same, formula from no matter what. It's like, you know who you want to attract and you want to, you want people to sign up and this. But to me, it's more of the communities involved and who does these rides. And I mean, there's something, coming from kind of a more racer side of the industry, it was so refreshing to do the triple and cover it last year and see that cycling is more than just the fasties. It's more than just the racers. Like, sure, they're out there too, but it's just so inspiring to see, people in their 70s or 13-year-old kids riding with their moms and dads and all sizes and all of that. It's nice to have that mix. So, I get the Colorado Classic of the racies, and then I get more of a community, feel good. Like Betty Bike Bash is another one of Team Evergreen's events, and that's like the biggest women's only mountain bike race in North America. So that's going to be at the end of May. And then Mount Evans is another Team Evergreen event, and that's another Colorado pretty much epic. Like that's the highest paved road in the US, and you climb up it. So You guys want to come out and do some climbing? I'll play tour guide. I'll moto pace you.
Doug's eyes just got real big.
I'm in. I like climbing.
I don't, but I do it.
I mean, it's amazing. Yeah. Mount Evans, I've never done. I've only ridden to the base of Idaho Springs, but it's amazing. And that's one of those that people, I mean, Jonathan Vaughters, did this NPR interview recently about Evans, like his quest for Evans and when he was doping and how, at the height of it, he didn't get the record, and he was thankful he didn't, looking back now, because he's like, that would have been bad. Like, I want to get it for,
right.
I want to get it legitimately.
The right reasons. And I will say
that's the amazing one.
That triple bypass is actually the first event in my getting indoctrinated into cycling. It's the first big event that I ever heard about. Before any of the charity rides that I did, I knew about the triple bypass before, and I don't even know how I discovered it. I think it was some of the folks that I had kind of come up riding with that were from Colorado that moved to Cincinnati. They originally grew up in Cincinnati, moved to Colorado, and then moved back home to be closer to family, and they were talking about it. And it's cool to find where some of those things come from and see how they just all connect. And God, if they're putting on that big of an event multiple times a year, how big is this club?
I mean, I think I want to say the active membership is 400 members, right? But that means quite a lot in terms of the shift and active riders versus active members, because it's also a big community-based entity and actually all of the proceeds that from their events, they give back to the community. So, I mean, they've given, I think it's up to over $3 million in their entire entity from 1988 when they were established. Wow. But I mean, it's 30,000 last year just to community grants. And that could be anything from food kitchens to a bike rack at the, Evergreen Library. It's pretty much just giving back, and they do a really good job of obviously of managing their budget, but they do a good job of finding entities that need it and also are widespread. It's not just, because sometimes it's we give all these proceeds back, and then you're well, sort of, you kind of give it back to your own pocket. That's weird, but I've been impressed with. It's been fun to get to know them, I guess, as a client versus that same thing where that was my entry point to long distance cycling. The first time I did the triple, I treated that very seriously for the training, and probably more than I've ever treated an event, taken it seriously, except for a half Ironman. I mean, I was so worried about being able to climb, 10,000 feet, 3 mountain passes. I was worried I was not going to finish, and for good reason. I mean, it's serious, but they also offer a single and a double. So, I mean, there's 40 miles, 65 miles. There really is something for everybody. And it's such a good vibe to watch people cross the finish line and cry, how often does that happen? I mean, aside from, I don't know, cyclocross, we see it sometimes and at the highest level, but, to see people just break down in their family's arms and, come in at sundown at the very end and there's still people cheering for them is pretty inspiring. And that I think would be so like you said, finding those events state to state, I think would just be so fun. Again, something from my 50s. I'm going to go find those inspiring events state to state and just do them rogue. I mean, I like that. I don't mean that. But
I did. Well, I mean, to that point, I did that last year at Barry-Roubaix, but I've told that story on the show before.
That you cried? Yes.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, in the park.
I cry all the time.
Yeah. Well, you do. It's your thing. Tears per kilogram.
Yeah, for sure.
But so before I wanted to talk about the Colorado Classic, but before we move on to that, since we're talking about Evergreen, what do you think they're doing? Because we've had cycling clubs in Cincinnati specifically that are way older than that. So you're saying they started in 1988. What do you think they're doing that is making them so successful, so sustainable, giving them the ability to have 400 people be that active and put on these monster events to then give right back to the community? How, what you working with them? What do you see as the secret sauce?
Well, I think they're doing a couple things right. They've built events that are you could do one or the other, right? You could or start one way or the other, right? You could have this amazing team or club, and decide you want to do an event, or you could do the event and then say, hey, we're pretty good at this. We should form a club around it and, do more. They, I feel, have put on such a quality event that's kind of the lead in, right? But a lot of people up until just a few years, I mean, even me, I didn't realize, and I'm a Colorado native and have, been in the event. I didn't even realize that Team Evergreen was kind of the overarching umbrella. So I don't know if that may have either hindered it, either it's going to even blow up even more, or people just saw it as separate. And then the people found the team, I think, and the club due to friendly openness. I mean, it really is like open to all. They lead group rides. It's the same stuff that I think any great club is doing. I think we're poised in a really good area. That helps certainly right along the Front Range. But they have people that come from Steamboat sometimes to do the group rides. Like if it's snowy in the spring, like they'll drive from Steamboat. Steamboat's like 6 hours away to go do group rides, in Golden. And so that I think says something too, and that it's friendly enough and it's open enough. And then they're constantly trying to offer things that will connect them to the community more than just racing, more than just riding. Like it's, hey, we're going to go, and where we're poised too, we're right along the Front Range, so we can go do trail dig days and clean up trash along the bike path along I-70 so you can get to Evergreen. Like there's a lot of opportunities for us here, I think, just in the locations that probably helps. But, they are doing it well, in that they have really well-run events and really good people behind them. And so, I mean, that's, like you said, that's probably any club anywhere that is doing those things too, that we probably just don't know about.
Yeah. Interestingly,
that don't have a social media person or PR,
Interestingly, it sounds like they are also, they're not just doing the formulaic, okay, it's the Tuesday night ride, we're going to go out in 3 groups and we're going to do this. It sounds like they're taking their club's activities to not just encompass these big events or the Tuesday night group ride, the fast, slow, super slow group. They're also going out and engaging in the community with infrastructure in a different way. I think that's kind of a different position for a lot of quote unquote bike clubs to do. Normally you see that from advocacy organizations, right? Who are like, our job is to dig the trails,
inspire, motivate, get people out,
dig trails, stuff. Or we're the people who are the greenway people and we just go out and take care of these greenways and try to take care of the Little Miami Trail, right? It's very interesting that they're doing all of those pieces.
Yeah, they can mix and match. And I mean, this is the first year the Betty Bike Bash has been around this will be its 11th year. So, but they were losing sponsors, and this was going to be a year that they kind of had to pull the plug. And then Team Evergreen, knows the race director and has raced the executive director and the board have raced it, and everybody knows, how it is. Like you're in your little bubbles and kind of everybody knows everybody. And so they were able to get that event under their umbrella and, save that event basically, which is cool. But, we've got this kickoff for the Betty Bike Bash, like registration coming up next week at Yeti Cycles, which is in Golden. And they're a title sponsor of the event. And so them looking and saying, all right, we know we've got the corner, so to speak, and not really, because there's so many amazing charity events and long distance cycling events here in Colorado, but we know the Triple's doing pretty well, right? So they could just sit on that and say, Triple's doing great. We don't really even have to add anything else. Like the money that we make from that, and the Mount Evans, like that's pretty good. But they are seeking out more women. And so the Betty Bike Bash was a good, and not seeking in like a creepy way, like that made it sound really creepy. But not,
I think it was fine. It was fine until you started saying that.
We were all comfortable with what you were saying, and it wasn't weird. And now it totally is.
You know what I meant.
I don't know now what you meant. I don't know what you meant now, Katie. Now I'm worried.
Not in trying to get a women's-based event just for good publicity, right? Like just for, women's cycling is hot right now, and just to jump on that bandwagon. That's not it. Like they really want to attract more women and offer more events to bring more women into the sport, and to bring the Betty Bike Bash is a great race. I mean, it's got a never ever category. Obviously, a lot of races do that, but they've got a new moms category. So Team Evergreen saw that and was like, hey, we really do want this as part of our a part of our events. And then they're adding, I think, a enduro series this summer as well, just like a midweek, super cheap, like basically you pay for your timing and you get a beer afterwards. So they're seeking out these ways of branching out of just that, middle-aged white roadie category. They really want to keep finding a younger crowd, a crowd that maybe can't afford a $200 entry to something, and offer events that will help that. And then offer community events and rides and things like that regardless of, your background, you can come and hang and find your space. So yeah, that's a really fun one to be a part of and help out with for sure.
It's cool hearing about all of this stuff because it is very much like you said, Doug, where I think the standard for a cycling club is like we do Tuesday nights, we leave at 6:30. That's it. It's not about, there's no concept of how do we make this more communal? How do we make this more engaging? How do we make this more of an experience? And it's that leftover, like, okay, I need to get my miles in. I do 40 miles on Tuesday. It starts at 6:30. We get done 8:30, 8:45, whatever. And then I go home, shower, dinner, whatever. Like that's my time that's carved out. And it becomes this very like linear, pragmatic solution to this problem that doesn't actually exist. Whereas when you look at it just slightly different of how does this live in the broader ecosystem of Cincinnati, of Golden, Colorado, of wherever you are, Des Moines, Iowa, like how does it fit into the broader spectrum rather than looking at the tree that's in front of you? What does the forest look like? And
Totally,
I love the statement about like women's cycling is so hot right now, and acknowledging that there are a lot of people that are doing it because it's in vogue. But rather than approaching it because it's in vogue, it's like, no, we're missing a huge spectrum of folks that want to participate and have these experiences. And like, then you're starting to like tickle the edges of why gravel events have exploded and why
absolutely
like the joke, the idiom of like road is dead. And it's like, it's not, but this is why the idea of road is dead catches on, because you're not providing an experience. Whereas something like a road ride like Triple Bypass, that's an experience, and you're giving somebody something that's bigger than I'm going to go out and I'm going to do, 3.5 watts per kilo for 100 miles. And I'm going to like, whatever. It's like, that's not an experience as much as it's solving a problem that doesn't exist.
Right. Well, and talking about ecosystems, like they're, last year when I kind of started and I've known the woman who's the executive director for years. Like we used to race cross together. In fact, the first time that I talked with her, we were racing a cross race and she fell in front of me and she'd been leading the whole race, and she's like 5'2" and I'm 5'10", so I was like, I gotta catch her. Like, I can't let her beat me. She's so tiny. And like, she just kept getting all the corners perfectly just right, and she wipes out. It's at this like little league, kind of around the side of the baseball field. And I come up on her and I was like, ooh, she's really not getting up. And she looks up and she's got blood, by her mouth. And I said something like, are you quitting? And she's like, I think I broke a tooth. I'm like, get up, and we both like laughed afterwards. I was like, honestly, I couldn't believe you really got up and didn't just like get up and kick my ass. But like she's mighty. She's
waiting for her time. But she still remembers that. Yeah. She's just waiting.
But that story, for anyone who is listening to our show or understanding Katie Macarelli for the first time, that story is Katie Macarelli in about 3 sentences.
What's wrong with you? Get up!
Tooth out. So I broke a tooth too once. Actually, I didn't, but still, get up. Yeah. So anyway, when she and I kind of were strategizing about, all right, how can we make this? What are some things that we can do? And I asked, hey, well, where are your group rides held? Where do you guys meet? 'Cause she said, oh, we do group rides, starting in March, and they're open to everybody. And I'm like, cool. Where do you meet? And she's like, oh yeah, the Conoco on like C470. Okay, no offense, but the Conoco along C470 is really not like, it's along a highway. Like, it's really not the prettiest place that one could meet, right? And I was like, there's a new coffee shop that opened up kind of a little bit further, closer to Golden, and it's a better shot really for kicking off. It's actually called Launch Coffee and Espresso. It's like they made it there so that people could get their coffee fix either launching on the way to skiing or to biking or hiking or anything. And so we then just up and changed it. She was like, yeah. I said, can you change it? She's like, of course I can change it. So we just made the decision. Now group rides meet at Launch. And it was the best like community engagement. The fact that now on Sundays, Launch is packed with cyclists, you know, and they're now family. Like everybody knows Launch now in this team, you know, and Launch loves the team and loves the club. And, you know, not just because they come and bring them service, but people now hang out versus, they would do their 2 hours. Who wants to hang out in a Conoco along the highway? No one. But who wants to hang out and talk with their friends for like 30 or minutes after or an hour afterwards at a coffee shop that's, you know, got gorgeous views? A lot more people. So those kinds of things, like talking about the ecosystem, that's what I love. Like, that's my favorite thing, when you can connect the parts and then suddenly like the part is better for everybody then, you know, like that's my favorite part about it.
It is about connecting, right? It is about those relationships to place, to things that you're doing, and finding connection within it, and giving people a reason to re-engage with whatever's going on in their space, whether it's a group ride or
understanding that it's bigger than you.
Right. Exactly. And I think that is part of their success, it sounds like. And I obviously it's a pattern that people can, you know, reproduce in their own local area.
So here's what's going to happen is Katie's now going to put us in contact with them, and we're going to have them on the show. So friends of the show. Evergreen.
Absolutely.
See, this is how this works. Pebbles, you just got to get one K-Mac. You get one K-Mac and world's your oyster.
She is the Kool-Aid female. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. But it is it's wild how that can change the way the world works. And this is part of what makes you good at what you do, is because you think like, oh, well, this just doesn't seem to make sense in this space. Why? How can we change that?
Right. This doesn't make sense. We could do this. We could do this, and this. And then, you know, like, then you're riding with people and hanging out with them afterwards. And honestly, that's how I recruited another mountain bike coach. It's like, you find out that people are like, oh, well, you know, I just came to this today, but usually I like mountain biking. You do? Well, guess what? You know, like you would never get those connections unless you, hang out with somebody for longer than an interval on a bike, you know, or a sprint.
Exactly.
So, and I know that like post race that happens, but a lot of times it doesn't, because people are busy, you know, like you finish a race or an event and it's like, I got to get home to my family. So building that into at least at the start or finish of a ride has been fun, has been neat for them.
That's cool. So the other one that we really like, other event that you are really heavily engaged with, is the Colorado Classic. And it is and you guys did do a massive sea change last year. And I think that's important. And I think, you know, I've had a personal, you know, phone call with Lucy and talked to her about some of this stuff.
I was there too.
John was there. I know.
Man,
no, we were there.
You just said I like.
We had a personal phone call with Lucy, but we talked a lot about, you know, what you know, the marketing components and pieces of that look like. But it's very interesting because that process has really yielded fruit, and you have a team of people and an incredibly like well-received event that people are doubling and tripling down on in a way I think that the United States needs to pattern.
Pay attention.
Yeah, like pay complete attention to like how, if you want to really make a dent in supporting women's cycling, there's a lot of different things that people are trying and experimenting with, trying how they can do it. But like, this is an event that's like, nah, screw you dudes. This is not about this. We need to double down here because but it's done from a place of love, and I think that's amazing. Talk a little bit about what that has been like, being engaged in the strategy of that change and really dealing with some of the you said there was blowback, but then the other side of that as well, which was the reception, like the positive side of that. What's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, you know, so we've obviously followed the Colorado Classic as it is now, and then, you know, it used to be US Pro Challenge, and before that it was, I think, Quiznos. So the event has been around for a while, not like 40 years a while, but I think, like 10, I should get my research right, but 10 or 11 in different iterations, right? In different routes and different dates and links and all that. And so we'd also obviously been fans. Like I can remember I took my daughters to like the first US Pro Challenge when it first came back, and they were like toddlers, and they got, like the Colombians to sign their jersey. And I remember thinking like, they almost are the same size as like my daughters that were like 6 and 8, I think at the time, but that was when it came through Golden. And I mean, that was amazing to me, like as a cycling family. And, and Golden is full of, outdoorsy cyclist people. And so it was a great turnout. Right. And so I've followed it in terms of just being a cyclist. And then, last December, I've been paying attention to it. And then last December, they made the announcement that it was only going to be, it was going from men's to women's only. And that was interesting just because I like to kind of hover on social media and see what people are saying, and, oh, this is never going to work, and, oh, this is going to kill the race and all that. And I can't believe, like, who's going to want to watch that? That's my favorite quote that, like, people constantly on Twitter or whatever, who's going to want to watch that? And it's like, well, actually kind of a lot of people. So there was a lot of that, I think. And then when we came on board, we were kind of doing content and strategy and that kind of thing, more of like the blogs and helping connect with the teams and things like that. And so, as the year progressed last year and we got more and more involved, it was kind of a month by month thing, right? Like, this is like the 7 stages of grief. Like, I think there were the 7 stages of grief for a lot of like hardcore male cyclists. They were like, oh, surely it'll fail and it'll come back. And like every month that the race kept progressing, and every time we announced something, like host cities, we got them nailed down, and every little milestone we gained, clout, we gained a following, we certainly gained the athletes. And that was the coolest thing. Was, I think, up until the race week, even the athletes were kind of like, we've been told this before, guys. Like any female racer, pro racer is just like, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what this is going to be like. Not like hostile, but good, healthy skepticism, because a lot of
people will sell them a bill of goods.
Will say,
bill of goods.
Totally. Yeah. And so, that was the coolest thing, is during race week, just seeing like athletes, in interviews and talking and like on their social media, like on their stories, being like, this is the coolest thing ever. I honestly can't believe it. Like that was neat. Like when we reached, like the end of the first, not even the end of the first day, like 1 hour into the race, we all kind of were looking around at each other like, oh my gosh, we did it. Like, this is going really, really well. And not that we didn't think it would, but the interaction and the support was amazing. And I mean, they did things really well, like the streaming. That's one aspect that is, I think, really paving the way and could make events could make US cycling events actually pull it off, is live streaming it versus TV, right? The cost for it is, I think, like cost per view in the 2017, I think was like $3.10. And in 2019, something around that, or $3, it was like 63 cents per view. But I mean, we made it free. So you could stream it from start to finish, awards ceremony, everything, like signing in. And so, I mean, how we get excited, or at least we do in our household. We're like, ooh, Trek is streaming the Cup this weekend. Like we get so excited if you can watch a bike race.
Oh God, yes.
That's what they did. Like, and so now they can talk about, Meredith Miller, and Brad Sonar doing the live TV. So now they are giving the, all the racer input and stories and things like that while we're doing the live coverage, intermingling Tour Tracker. Like we had coverage in pretty much any place you wanted it. And that was fun too. Like some people would chime in like, oh, I thought you guys said you were going to cover blah, blah, blah. And then we would just like reply back with a quote, like, here you go. And then, I mean, people were just kind of like, oh, I didn't actually, cool, thanks. Like we got to change people's perception on that. And I think that's the whole goal of the overall mission, right? It's a race. Of course it is. But the quote is, this is more than a race. Like we want to change how races are, the accessibility, the viewership, to get people interested in this, right? Like if you can't watch it as, a young kid or even as an adult or whatever, how are you going to ever even know that this is a thing, right? Like, I mean, there's a very small percentage of, the US that knows that, like, that really cares about hardcore bike racing in the fact that they will really go in big and find the details of how to view it. You have to make it easy. Like, it has to be easy for people. Like, you get 1 or 2 clicks for somebody and then that's it. Like, that's all they're going to want to check. And so they want to make it broader, not just for, this is a race, but we want to use this as a platform to elevate women's cycling and women's sports and to just do it differently. Like, we don't have to do it the same way just because it's been done that way over and over and over again, right? Like, we can now have Global Cycling Network stream it, Altitude Sports, like, anywhere in the world that can stream it. Like, they can stream it for free. Great. Get it out there, put it out there. So that I think has been, that's been fun to see. And now, like I said, coming into year 2, where now we don't have to tell people, like, defend it, like, this is what we're doing, we promise it'll work. This is the fun part. Like, sweet. Now we have everything a little bit earlier this year, and our host cities are being dialed earlier, and teams are now signing on earlier. So the momentum is definitely there. And the athletes trust us. Like, now we've built that trust. And so now that's not a hard sell to be like, yeah, no, you want to be here. I promise. We'll tell your story. Like, we'll push it out. Just send us content. Like, that trust is there too, which is nice.
So in year 1, it's kind of nice to be able to know a lot of the folks involved in these things, but to still get to watch them from afar and kind of get a 40,000 foot view of how things unfold. And I'm curious, from being on the inside, what metrics or what kind of intangibles did you and the entire group involved with this kind of set aside as these are our success metrics? Like, what were your primary, I guess it is like, what were your primary success metrics for 2019?
Yeah, I mean, well, for me, obviously social is something that I can track pretty easily and like hits and misses. One really amazing thing was we got Billie Jean King to tweet about it, like, on the day before the race started. And because we had, Lucy Diaz had been on a panel here in Colorado for the Right Awards. And it's just like awards for amazing companies or entities just doing things out of the box, WRIGHT. And, she was speaking very passionately about it. And she had just kind of offhandedly mentioned, like, we are looking for that Billie Jean King moment, like that. We want to be that. We want to foster that moment. And then that kind of became our mantra. Like, where's our Billie Jean King moment? How can we provide the platform that these women can have that, and that they can, raise their careers and raise their performance, and what, thinking all along the ways of, like, what are the things that we could do that would be different? Like, we had dressing rooms, female dressing tents that were, like, decorated by, the little Bellas every stage of the race, that were, like, nice. And the women couldn't believe it. Like, the athletes would go up to it and they'd, like, look in, they'd be like, this is for us, right? Like, are you sure? They're so used to, like, changing in their car, like,
or a porta potty, right?
Race.
Like, like
or
a porta potty.
Yeah.
Oh, great. This is great.
So we wanted, right. So we wanted to provide everything that we could think of that would do that, and kind of kept referring to it. And then, I was actually meeting, like, the PR, my coworker, Anna Mariah, Ryan Cross, who was doing social at that moment. We were all going to meet up at this at Launch Coffee Shop, actually, to drive to Steamboat. And I've got my, suitcase packed for the 4 days of where we're going. And, like, I'm scrolling through Twitter and I'm like, oh my gosh, Billie Jean King, like, she really tweeted it. Like, she tweeted about us. And, like, I jumped up and, like, did a little screamy dance in the coffee shop, then that morning. But, and then everybody saw it, like, at the same time, which was really cool. So that was, in terms of success, that was something that we're like, this is some momentum that we aren't doing this. I mean, we are, but we're really on the shoulders of so many other women and so many years of racing and so many years of being told, no, you can't do that. No, that's never going to work. Blah, 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 blah. Like, it's so refreshing to be like, this, we're doing it. Like, we're doing it just like X amount of women did before us, but now we're moving the needle in the way that we can. So, impressions and viewers and all that, that's definitely something that I know in terms of sponsorship side, that's really important. But for me, like, you guys too, it when you see it, right? Success and a good thing and a good event or a good athlete, or that's something special when you see it. And that was the electric energy that I felt over those 4 days last year.
Yeah. So here's my question, because you said this, you're standing on all these shoulders. Does it mean more when you get to work with a project like that to you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like we took Colorado Classic as a client when odds would say, or if you were just saying, on paper, we probably shouldn't have as a marketing agency, because we already client-wise, we were pretty set for the year, for the season. But both, Jason, who's, awesome boss, and Anna Mariah and I, we were like, yeah, we want to do it. Sign us up, because this is something we so believe in that it doesn't make sense for us to take this on right now, but we'd like to take it on. It means a lot. And it means a ton, like, to just see that, you see all these little girls lining up and high-fiving Chloe Dagger-Owen at the beginning of the race and just screaming their faces off. And it's like, yes. As a mom of 2 daughters, like, yes, like that is awesome. It means a lot.
So let's build on that. So rather than talk about what does success look like in 2020, I think there's a lot of folks, and you're right, this has been decades in the making, but there's a lot of folks right now working to make this event even more successful in 2020, now that some of those crusty, roady tendencies have been knocked away, and frankly got to watch effing amazing racing for a week. That gender doesn't matter when it comes to great racing, and frankly the last couple of years, whether it's on road or off road, the women's races have all been better than the men's races.
100%.
Pretty exciting.
My thought goes to, okay, so there's all these people putting all of this great work in, and there's an entire generation of female cyclists that are on the precipice of reaping the rewards from it. But there's also a generation that's coming behind it, and then another generation behind that that's also coming. How do all of us help not drop the ball? How do we how do all of us help make all of this effort and all of this momentum that's been started to nudge that rock? How do we help kick it down the hill?
Especially as 2 white dudes with a podcast, as we said, the most atypical thing we could be.
Yes. Yeah. Super cliche.
I mean, like, from my standpoint, it's whenever I go to events where it's like, well, how do we help women cyclists or get this, like, and I think we may have even touched about this on the first time I was on with you guys, like, just watching, reading, following, like, you have no idea how powerful that is metrics wise to know, like, oh, so-and-so, Billie Jean King, of course, shared this. So that's pretty big. Just by tuning in, just by watching the women's cross race, just by watching this, tune in and watch this. There's no excuse. It's free. It's easy. But showing up in whatever capacity you can, right? Like whether that's digitally, whether that's you share an article, on your own social media accounts about, we did a 12 days of badass around Christmas, like, for Colorado Classic. And as I was, doing this, I was like, all right, well, you guys know that like 12 days of Christmas starts like on Christmas, right? Typically, I don't know, should we say 12 days of badass on Christmas? Like, am I going to go to hell if I type that? Like I was kind of giggling but we chose 12 women, from not just cycling, right? We chose it from all sorts of different powerful women that, from famous to, the high school mountain bike league director here in Colorado. And it was so fascinating because when we posted just those, right, finding the people that tuned into that and shared it was awesome, because we're like, okay, like, again, this is sharing our mission. This is sharing our vision. And the athletes were chiming in and sharing it with now they're sharing stuff with their families and stuff. And then they get totally bombarded. So it's cool when you see they're tagging Colorado Classic in this, because that really, like, in their best of moments for 2019, like, those are the things when you pick up on it and just share it and show up in whatever capacity you can, means a lot. And those are the metrics that sponsors actually pay attention to. And like, they really care about that stuff. So nothing's insignificant, I guess, when it comes to helping out with this. Certainly showing up, to a race is great. If you could come out to Colorado, that's fantastic. But just tuning in when it happens and being aware of the athletes that we're trying to get the word out for them, follow Brody Chapman. She's hilarious. Like, there's so many good athletes that it was so fun to get to know them just from like me taking pictures of the side of the stage. And honestly, you know, Chloe Duggar-Owen has to hold a whole lot of jerseys, and she did a great job with that. And she has a really cute dog. So I mean, just so many awesome ways that you can show up, even if it's just being interested in the athlete, starting there, and then it usually spirals. So I mean, I always just say, like, tune in and show up in whatever capacity you can. That helps a lot.
I think showing up is a key to life. Like, and whether it's to support Colorado Classic or to support the people in your life. And I think this is the perfect time to discuss something that is going on and in your world. And I don't think a lot of folks actually really know, and maybe they don't follow you specifically on social media, but you have been showing up in a way that not a lot of people have to for their family and their significant other in this past year, because your husband, Aaron, had a pretty serious injury. And that's really kind of been the other thing, aside from this massive job change and all of this stuff that you've had going on. You know, what happened, and where are you guys at right now as far as his recovery and whatnot, and what has that process started to be like for you? So awesome.
I like the ellipses there.
Right.
Of like, ooh, what's next?
We've talked about the work stuff. We've talked about all that stuff, and like really fascinating how her whole world has changed in that space, and working with these different brands and the things she's learning.
Yeah, going
in that
from
space.
one brand to a bunch of brands, and being kind of at the sharp edge of this event that's flipping domestic road racing on its head.
Fantastic.
Gender aside,
yeah,
like, it is changing the way that folks go to business with bike racing and bike racing coverage.
And it's amazing because they're doing it not because they're like, this is a women's event, we have to figure out how to flip this. They're like, no, this is a women's event. That is what is important.
Right.
And we have to fix the fact that we can't get coverage anywhere for cycling. So we're going to fix that problem.
Right.
And our event is awesome and just focused on
rather than great product existing, and it's a great product whether you have streaming coverage or not.
But y'all broke all this other stuff. We're going to work on that.
Rather than bitching and moaning about not having streaming, they're just like, well, we're smart. Let's figure out how to do this for not $1 million.
Let's
and
find some
not a
smart
helicopter
people
in the sky. And I'll be damned.
But
they nailed it
for sure. But one of the things I do like kind of love is because every time I think about the helicopter in the sky, I think about that one mode on Zwift. There's like, and you're like, is there a helicopter in my headphones right now? And you're like, oh yeah, we're in the chopper mode on Zwift.
Chopper.
So, we'll put it on chopper mode on Zwift next time we get to do a Zwift ride. But awesome time with Katie Mack. Way more coming next week.
Yes.
And
folks, so much more next week.
I can't even tell you. And
I had a rough day when we did this second part of the interview. I mean, it was good therapy though.
It was good. I mean, and John and Katie really talk a lot about things that were going on with both of them and some of the challenges they've had in those spaces. They've got a lot of kindred life experiences as of late, and I think it's important for everybody to see a little bit into your experience in a way I don't think that they have before on the show. Yeah. You've alluded to.
I've shared snippets.
You have, but it's not like this.
This was,
And if you're tired of listening to me talk, I don't talk much in the next episode, which is actually probably for the best in
bonus
this situation.
Content for all the pebbles there.
For everyone if you don't want to listen to me. But really excited. Thanks for Katie for joining us this week. But check in next week for sure. As we always are always saying to all of you, thank you for being engaged. Thank you for being a pebble. Please, feedback. Whether it's reviews or questions or people you want to see on the show,
emails,
or
direct
anything,
message.
We need you engaged with this show. We cannot do it without you. You are literally the reason why we create this thing. I mean, it's cool that I get to hang out with my best friend and we get to talk at each other at least once a week.
And talk with one other person.
Right.
But it's way cooler when we get to talk to 10, 50, 20
we
200, whatever, however many notes we get in a week. Like, that's awesome.
That. We want your feedback. We want you engaged in that space. Obviously, you can locate us at The Gravelot on pretty much every social media. We are at thegravelot.com. Obviously, go to the Wide Angle Podium. They are our podcast and media network. That is wideanglepodium.com. Become a donor. And make sure that when you're becoming a donor,
check the box.
Yeah, check our box.
Yeah,
because you're listening to our show and you are a Pebble and you need to say, hey, look, I'm a Pebble. This show is important to me. I want to support it.
Right. And for all of you that do that, for all of you that listen, for all of you that are listening for the first time, for the 100th time, whatever it is, thank you so much for giving us a chance. Listening, whether you've engaged or not, just by listening, you're engaging, but we'd still love to hear what you have to say, what people you'd like us to talk to. But I think even further than that, thank you to you guys, and go out and support the people that are supporting our show. The Gravelot is also being generously supported by our good friends and longtime supporters of the show, Whoop.
So we talk about it a lot, Whoop. It's basically how I make sure...
It's how Doug lives.
It's how I make sure I'm not going to die.
Alive.
And it's gotten to the point now where Ellen and my coach Kenzie will be like, so what's your Whoop today? I'm like, not very good. It's kind of bad.
You have other people monitoring you.
Right. It's good. It's like having, but
let me see your wrist.
Right. Well, smack me with. I have to look at my phone because it doesn't show you anything on your wrist. But I will tell you what, we've had a lot of folks who are really glad Whoop's back to join and support the Wide Angle Podium. Folks, if you haven't used this, it is a foolproof rest measuring tool.
Yeah.
It is a complement to your training in a different way. It allows you to actually look at like, hey, am I taking care of myself? Am I actually getting myself rested? It's all the work I'm doing.
It's all the stuff away from the actual putting in the work and putting in the miles and hitting the gym. It's everything outside of that you probably aren't tracking and have just, I don't know how to recover, or I don't know how much sleep I'm getting.
Right. When my dog wakes me up at 5 a.m. this morning and they go outside and start chasing a rabbit around a tree for, 20 minutes, and I'm trying to get them inside while it's cold, rainy, and muddy, and then I have to spend another 20 minutes washing their feet while I'm bent over, guess what? That affects your heart rate. And if you're not measuring that, and then you go do hard workouts and all these other things, you're not getting the full sum total of what your day was. So Whoop really looks at all of your cardiovascular load, how well you slept, whether your dog woke you up at 5 or 4:30 or whatever ungodly at Camber. Stop.
I think Camber and Rosie are in the same timetable.
Camber, stop.
They call each other in the morning like, hey, you ready? You ready? Are we good?
Fire this thing up. But you want to know that whole world. So make sure you're judging yourself not just on how good that workout was, but on how well you're recovering, because a good recovery day is worth way more than a good workout day.
Right. So let's like back this up for the folks that don't really know what we're talking about. We're talking about a wrist-worn heart rate monitor that pairs to an app on your phone, has a 5-day battery life, and this monitor on your wrist is tracking daily strain, sleep, and recovery. And like Doug said, it's really for all of the things away from the gym or the bike or running or whatever you're doing to really tell you kind of what your body's trying to tell you.
But you're not listening.
When you go up a flight of stairs and your heart rate peaks, or you wake up and you're like, why do my legs feel heavy? It's like all of those things that your body's trying to tell you, where you think like, oh, I could power through this. Like, no, your body's saying you need to rest. And Whoop will tell you when you need rest and when your body's not recovered very well.
Yeah, and it's being used by elite athletes, everyone from Kate Courtney to Rory McIlroy in golf.
If you don't know about it yet, where have you been?
Sleeping under a rock. Yes. But this is an important thing. Great tool. And for the Wide Angle Podium members who would like to get into this deal, highly recommend go to whoop.com, enter code WAP for Wide Angle Podium, so WAP at checkout, and it will save you 15% off a purchase of a 12 or 18-month subscription. They'll send the hardware to you for free. You pay for your subscription to the service and use all your data and figure out how you are resting.
Also, share some love for longtime supporter of the show, Dan and Grimport Brothers Coffee. Dan has been not only supporting the Gravelot since early on.
Early days.
He's actually been providing a ton of support. emotionally, financially, all of those things with all of us at the Wide Angle Podium now for a couple years.
Can you actually just like pay him to provide you emotional support? Is that
Probably.
a thing you can do at Grimport Brothers?
That might be like we might have to open a Patreon and
for Dan to spend time
and start creating some additional revenue streams for him.
I like this. This is good. But he has a couple of hand roasted blends that he's had for us for quite some time. So he's had the Hello Cyclocross Friends.
Yes.
And the Full Schleck.
And breaking news
coming to you soon.
One of those is retiring.
We won't tell you which one's retiring, but we will tell you that we are adding a new network coffee. All the proceeds from these coffees,
same as always,
come back to the shows that you support. If you hear this ad on a show on the Wide Angle Podium, you know those proceeds are coming back to these shows. It is called what, John?
I believe it's called Viewer Mail.
Viewer Mail.
And for any of you who are familiar with multiple Wide Angle Podium shows,
you know what Viewer Mail is.
You get it.
So keep your eyes peeled on the Grimport Brothers website, on the Wide Angle Podium page up at the top. Grimport Brothers, click on that. Coming soon, Viewer Mail. I don't have the tasting notes. I'm sure it's delicious.
Yes.
It always is. We'll have more details with that. But do that. Join us in drinking great coffee and supporting the people who support your sport.
And for the time being, keep drinking Hello Cyclocross Friends and the Full Schleck.
For sure.
Yeah.
Especially if you're getting low. Drink. So you can buy the new stuff.
Sure.
Out now and still longtime support of the show. One of the first, the OGs, coming to the gravel lot and giving us a hand.
Oh,
is our good friends at Hand Up Gloves with fresh.
Lots of
super fresh and dope new looks.
Gloves, socks, jerseys,
all sorts of stuff.
Skiing now.
Oh yeah, if
added, like we talked about the golf.
We got
last time. We got golf. We added skiing, and we have.
We're gonna have to take up
6 or. I know we're gonna have to pick up some new
other
hobbies,
sports.
But like 6 or 7 new gloves, new palms, new backs, new socks. Which Troy, I'm gonna need some socks because I basically live in the Hand Up socks and flannels.
He's made all his clothes out of Hand Up socks. He's just stitched them together.
Yes.
Just only lives in those.
It's weird.
It is strange at work, but it is a thing. But we love Hand Up. Hand Up's been an amazing supporter. Check out their new lineup. Check out their old lineup and the stuff that they still have in their incredible gloves, incredible apparel. We love them. They are fantastic folks. And we want to send a little special shout out this week because our good buddy Troy got married this past weekend. So congratulations, Troy.
Yes.
We're excited for both of you. And thank you for your support of the show. Everybody go to Hand Up and use code Pebble $. You got to go click the link in our show notes.
Yeah,
I always screw that. Click the link in the show notes. Click the link in the show notes and then Pebble $. Because when you go enter Pebble $, it doesn't work and you get angry at us.
Right.
We'll just tell you to go click the link.
Internet bots in Russia and stuff like that.
And Ukraine and wherever all the other places they are. So that'll save you 20% at checkout on everything.
All of it, even the new stuff.
Yep, absolutely. So
go do it. Shop Hand Up Gloves now.
Our intro and outro music is from our friends and local band Undertipper. Head on over to undertipper.bandcamp.com and thank them for supporting this fine programming by purchasing their music.
Since day one.
Yeah, like before day one, because we had to come up with intro outro music before we recorded our first
and they bailed us out.
We were like,
and it's still there.
It's still because we love it, man. It just feels right. And I listen to it and I feel like I'm ready for the episode.
Yes.
That is a wrap for today. As we say each and every week, decisions and trails are made by those who show up. So if we don't see you on the trails this week, we'll see you next time. Bye, John.
Bye, Doug. 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 Doug.